background and history might be your first time, Alight is an international humanitarian organization that provides a range of services for people experiencing displacement. And we meet them on that journey of displacement, providing water, healthcare, protection services, livelihood support, a long list of support and service. And our aim here is to build lives of meaning and purpose alongside people who are displaced. And we are also, our story began in 1979, actually with an enduring belief in the power of the possible and the abundance of everyday people. And today we have 2,500 people working around the globe who are supporting over 4 million people who are experiencing displacement in 20 countries that we work in. Okay, and so those folks by sheer circumstance find themselves on the journey of displacement, which is a long and arduous path. And we are working with them as you know, as we all understand, this displacement journey upends lives, livelihoods, and dreams. And we're meeting them on that journey to help rebuild those lives of meaning and purpose. The next screen, please. And we are also with them on this journey, whether that's a 6-month journey or decades long. We stay with them on that journey until they are feeling more secure and on a path to thriving. Okay, so wherever they land, we are with them for the entire journey. Next slide, please. And we are currently witnessing the highest levels of movement on record. 1 in 73 humans are on the move. And with more than 110 million people worldwide who have experienced being forcibly displaced as a result of persecution, conflict, violence, and climate change. These individuals leave behind interrupted lives and dreams. Initiatives like Shelter Depot play a crucial role in supporting those navigating displacement and contribute to the larger effort of addressing global migration challenges. Okay, everything we do at Alight starts with co-creation. We've been integrating human-centered design into our work for over the past decade. And this has allowed our teams around the world, our 2,500 humanitarians, to better understand the experiences that the displaced are having on that journey. And it allows them to deliver services that are worthy of their humanity. Okay? We'll talk a little bit more about that. Co-creation, we are in the co-creation process, we partner with the local communities to ensure that we're always aligned with the values of Alight and meeting refugee-led initiatives, allowing people to really lift up their lives and empower them to lead in that process. And so this is the co-creation initiative really aligns us with our values. And I also do want to mention that we do not refer to the people that we serve as beneficiaries. We actually do consider them customers, and we work for them. And we believe that their lived experience renders them subject matter experts. And so it really changes the relationship to a hand out to a hand up. And this is central to the work that we do at Alight. And we also co-creation can also help us to redesign new things or existing things that just need improvement and to really be more adaptable to the lives. Here's just a slide that shows what our values are in that co-creation process and being aligned to our values. These, our work goes far beyond just the basics of water, health, and nutrition, all the basic needs. While we do those things, it is actually about building a life of meaning and purpose in that long journey of displacement. And these are the 6 areas of focus that we elevate on that journey with people to lead and co-create new solutions. And these are all things that are essential for life for all human beings. It is not a temporary fix. These are long-term needs that we are working to really build back in people on that journey. So with this, the next slide, we're here today to learn about Shelter Depot, an initiative that is an exemplary example of of how Alight and Shelter Depot are partnering to create a co-creative solution that offers more choice and power to the displaced communities to improve their livelihoods and their way of life through home improvement. So thank you all for your interest in this work, and we look forward to, I'll hand it over to Austin now to share more about the partner.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to the next slide. I'm so, first and foremost, so happy to be here and so grateful for our Alight's partnership. Frank, you were saying, you really like to invest in startups. Every shelter as a startup paired with the infrastructure of Alight is a unique combination that makes what we're trying to do together extremely potent and extremely powerful. Shelter Depot is sort of, and I'll get into that in my next few slides. We see Shelter Depot, this work together, as one of the most unique ways that we can prove a model that could scale and be decentralized in a way to serve as many people as possible. So as I said earlier, I'm the chief of staff of every shelter. I wear many, many hats. Every shelter, our basic mission is we design shelter solutions for refugees and displaced populations. In a nutshell, that's our specific piece of this. Our founder, Scott, was an architect, just started designing products, and that has led to where we are today in partnership with Alight, both with Shelter Depot and some unique products that we've innovated over the years. But we're just so super glad to be here. And at the core of what we are trying to do with Shelter Depot, it's on the screen, as Angela's already said. Refugees know, displaced people know how to improve their lives. You know what you want when you go to a retail store. I know what I want when I go to a retail store. Unless I see like 20 toothpaste options, then I don't know what I want. But the point is, we are trying to reintroduce agency. We're trying to provide stability, and we're trying to create opportunity for refugees that are in this long-term displacement group. You can go to the next slide. As Angela said, there are over 108 million people that are displaced. The duration of that displacement event, it's hard to pin down an exact specific number. Generally, it's agreed it's over 20 years. Certain settlements, certain camps, it's less. And I know so many people know this. I'm just giving an overview. I apologize to the people on the screen. I'll try to look at you. 108 million people, average duration 20 years. And if you go to the next slide, what this shows is sort of every shelter's view of like really what goes on in this space. And this is a helpful framing just as how to get people thinking. So the UN sort of says there are 3 basic outcomes they want for a displaced person or refugee: repatriation back to their home country, integration into the local host community or the local host country where they've landed, or resettlement to a different country. The problem is resettlement is less than 1% of all refugees globally, and repatriation, highly unlikely, particularly if you're leaving a violent state or you're being pushed across the border against your wishes. And so the option for us, the most common solution here is integration, post-country integration. And now what this chart is trying to show that, okay, so the humanitarian aid industry, there's crisis funding, crisis, all of a sudden funding from one crisis gets reallocated to another crisis. See this instant surge of funding, and yet the crisis remains, the displacement remains. An event in South Sudan that pushes people over a border doesn't, even if that crisis ends, the displacement journey is carrying on for 20 years, and we tend to run out of money at that point. These programs, these investments that we're making in the space, they don't have the means to sustain themselves in the long term. Shelter Depot is trying to fundamentally reorient that and to build, there's better terms for it. You can go to the next slide. But I'm going to call it, just for the sake of today, an anti-fragile aid delivery model. An anti-fragile aid delivery model. That is, when that initial investment runs out or there isn't long-term sustaining aid, we can build a distribution model for goods that's long-term, that's systemic, that's scalable, it's decentralized, and it's affordable and cheap. One, because it's a store. It's a store with a retail component. It's a store with a way in which refugees and displaced people can actually procure the goods they want with the means that they have. And if they don't have means, monetary means, they can work for those means. They can do a voucher for work or work for credit to get what they want. And so this is a strongly worded statement, and so please take this all with a grain of salt. Humanitarian aid in that long-term displacement can create cycles of dependency that we don't want to avoid. It can create situations where there is no agency. And we think Shelter Depot as a solution to that is a really good idea. You can go to the next slide. And so that was the complex way of talking about it. You know, the complex way is this is an alternate distribution method for delivering, you know, goods to people in hard situations. The very simple way to talk about it is it's a hardware store. It's not that challenging to understand a hardware store. You and I go to Home Depot, I need a light bulb. We're building a hardware store in refugee settlements. That's what we're doing. We're trying to relocalize the production of refugee goods so that refugees can get what they need and get what they want, as opposed to being told, here's what you need, you know, here's what you want for that long-term duration. You can go to the next slide. So this is actually a picture of the first store that we installed with Alight in BDBD. This is a shipping container. This is, you might call this the light version, LITE, you know, version. This is pretty bare bones, it's pretty basic. It's 2 units, and the unit to the left there, that's more storage, there's a small office in there. This is a retail storefront, there's a fence around it. This was right when it was launched. There's a lot more happening in this space now, including a brick making operation. We planted some trees. But the goal was with BDBD, can we prove the basic concept that refugees have means, that refugees will buy goods that they want, that if given the option, they will buy the thing that they need and they want. And the answer is, it's true. We validated that concept with BDBD. I think it's a few slides down, so you don't need to jump to it. And I know Natalie will have the more specific figures. Actually, it's 2 slides down if you want to go to it. To date, one more slide. To date, that store has launched over, that store has revenued over $10,000 in US dollar terms. I think it's like 40 million Ugandan shillings. And we're talking like, that is incredible. You know, sitting here, like that's, you know, $10,000 over, you know, a year. It doesn't seem like a lot, but that's pretty incredible. Just factoring in the cash, the access to cash, the access to financial means in the settlement. We have a wait list for the work for credit. We have other partners with other organizations in the settlement wanting to work with us, tree planting organizations. They're saying, hey, you know, we want to plant trees. We have donors who want to plant trees, you know, kind of reforest north, you know, and the Ugandan government wants to reforest northern Uganda. You know, if we can plant trees and refugees want to sign up to do that, can they get credit to, you know, to get the item they want at the store as a customer of the store? And the answer is yes. So our work for credit model is we've got a wait list for that. It's proven to just be a smashing success. And so you can go back up to one more slide, the slide we skipped. Yeah, so that's up in BDB, that's up in the northwest there. Down in the south is where we're launching the second store, and we're going to call this one a flagship. Natalie would, or later on in the presentation, you'll see bigger, you know, renderings of a much bigger storefront. But the flagship in Nakivale is in Rabunda. It's in the Rabunda district. This is a district that's taking on a lot of new refugees from the DRC with some conflict that's happening there lately. It's perfectly primed to be the storefront for all these new arrivals into the settlement. And I know Natalie will talk more about that. And what we're trying to do today, and what we'll talk more a little bit later, what we'll talk about later is what we need to get this flagship store across the line. You know, the goal would be over the next 12 months, can we prove the flagship model? Can we prove the pilot model up in BDB? Can we keep showing that these stores are doing what we think they can do? And then long-term, can we scale this thing across Uganda? Can we scale this thing across different settlements? Can we make this anti-fragile? Can we make this so that small investments upfront lead to long-term provision for a family that's displaced, you know, in these settlements? So what's the next slide? Briefly, one more. What's the next one? So the model is working. You know, that initial capital investment up front, it's provided by philanthropy, it's provided by folks around this table and other tables that get these stores off the ground. We have teams there that build them out. You know, what's going on, we're creating economies at the end of the day, because when you're also pairing a work for credit option, you're giving the refugee the means by which they can then get what they want in the store. And you're bringing in alternate investment into the settlement from other initiatives and other partners that want to build, you know, the trees. So we are charging for these products. The store is making money. We don't know if that'll ever be fully profitable, but the goal is, can we make it this much more profitable? Can we show over time that back to that initial slide of max, first investment, can we get closer to that to make this more sustainable in the long term? On the next slide. This is a quote from actually in Alight, from Igor. And I'll just read it out very quickly. He's Alight's.
Yeah, he's our
global
technical advisor,
Yeah.
and also he has experienced displacement in his life. But he's been with us for over 20 years
Yeah.
as our technical WASH expert.
Yeah.
And yeah, he has a very compelling perspective about the industry's lack of innovation
Yeah.
in shelter. And so these are very temporary housing.
Yep.
You can see on, his quote here. And I'll let you read it, Austin, but just before you do that, I just want to give some context that, because I've heard him say this so many times, and it has really hit home for me, but it's just that these temporary tents and thatched housing options are very temporary, and that tends to be the only option available. And so when they need to rebuild or fix or improve, they end up with the same option. And so after all this time, this really is a space lacking in innovation, and it is so core to the security and way of life and just general stability of making a life, of meaning and purpose. So this is where, go ahead and read this quote.
I'll read the quote. So Shelter Depot stands as a beacon of hope and progress, offering a transformative solution to persistent housing challenges faced by displaced communities in Uganda. Unlike temporary shelters, Shelter Depot empowers individuals with a platform for self-recovery and resilience by co-creating solutions and providing affordable goods and services through innovative programs like Work for Credit. Shelter Depot ensures that each $8 invested contributes not just to survival, but the rebuilding of dignified, sustainable homes for a better future. And what we're seeing in the store, they're also becoming little hotbeds of innovation. So, for example, the standard UN aid tarp that might last, up to 6 months on a good use. Can we experiment with new products? Can we take recycled, PVC billboard vinyl, something every shelter's been working on, calling it Bashe Bora, which is local slang for, a better tarp. Can we take a recycled PVC vinyl, train refugees to heat weld it together, stock that in the store as an alternative aid tarp? Well, that product on the roof lasts up to 10 years based off of material testing we've done with billboard companies in the United States. So interesting little innovations like this, where we're constantly kind of tinkering with, well, what inventory do people want? And what if we presented with refugees? What if we consulted on what would they like? What would they need? And then can we build material innovation? Can we actually stock these stores with not just products, but high quality products that actually truly dignify them, that are actually looking at, hey, we could just give you a tarp, but that tarp, if it only lasts 3 months, what's the point if you're here for 20 years, right? So that's what we're trying to do with the inventory procurement and the inventory, R&D, so to speak. Go to the next slide. I'm getting close. So, we have so many success stories. We are constantly working with our team there, with Alight's team there, to document people's journey. These are real folks, real names, of people that have benefited from the BDPD location. And I'm not going to read through each one of these, but we can provide this slide after the fact. It's the smallest things that, by providing access in the store, if you had to build, when I was there in last November, we saw a couple gentlemen building a new building. They had rebar, they had concrete, and we just asked them, where did you get this? Well, they got it in Yumbe town, which on a good day is 2 to 3 hours away from the settlement. They don't have access via car. They're riding on bodas. It's not safe. If we can relocalize that in a hardware store concept, it's right there. Take cost out, provide them the product and the means to get that product. You are dignifying their lives. You are giving them a way to build and invest in their homes, in their plots, that they haven't had up until this point. And so you can skip to the next. Actually, you can kind of skip to the next. This, these are, I don't think we need to get into these stories in depth. We will provide these slides after the fact. But these are real stories, and the folks that we get to meet with, and the folks that we're they're not beneficiaries, they're customers. The customers from our stores are benefiting. They are dignifying their lives. So I don't know, Angela, if you wanted me to go any further on any of those things, but I think that gives a high level overview. As Angela alluded to, like that Nakivali store, its ground is being broken. Scott is flying there on Thursday. It's being built out in the next few weeks and months. There'll be a big opening ceremony. We still need to fund that. You know, we'll talk more about that later, but I mean, it's really exciting right now. Hopefully you can catch that in my tone, energy.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm talking too much, you
Yeah.
know, Angela,
Yeah.
just tell me to shut up. You know?
Yeah. No, I think it's just, you know, just to wrap up on something like Mary, you know, just pointing out that they don't plan to live in a settlement for a long time. They really do leave in pursuit of safety and arrive at a place that has these very temporary, tents given. And so to, you know, their hopes and dreams are still, they're detaching from a home that now they have to rebuild. And it's just, this is a way to really bring back that grounded support that allows them to know that they're going to be able to pick up their lives here, because the likelihood is that they will be there for years, not, you know, so it's, you know, just like Mary here, refugees will spend over 20 years displaced, right? So, but that's not what their mindset is when they arrive. So just to know that these temporary solutions need to become longer term. And this is the dignified solution that we're very excited about sharing with you. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
All right, we can go to the next, I think we can.
Yeah, you can skip that.
Yeah. I mean, I think Mary.
Mary features in this, and we have a much larger slide deck that Mary features in, so that's why Mary's referenced here. You know, just before we go to the program, I just want to say, you know, to everyone on the call, you know, we are so grateful to work with Alight on this. We think that this truly is a new innovation in the space. We think this partnership is going to be, you know, pretty just it's going to show results that fundamentally will inform the sector, the entire sector, which is what's super exciting. If we can prove this concept out, we can change behavior in the sector and start building some of these mental models around agency, you know, in the larger sector. So that's what also we're super excited about. I just want to say that. Thank you all.
Yeah. And I think just to end on Mary.
Yes.
I think work for credit was the real ticket to her success in rebuilding her life, is that work for credit model really lifted her up to be able to do this, to rebuild her home, to become empowered to make choice. And so that's I just I think that's really good. And I think we're now transitioning to Natalie.
I didn't go too long.
No, program update, I think, by Natalie here.
Great. Hi, everybody. Hope you can hear me okay. Great. So I'm just going to go through some slides of everybody, just giving an overview of our program updates from the Shelter Depot project. Can you change to the next slide, Matt, please? Great. So on this slide, I'm just presenting sort of some key milestones to date for the Shelter Depot project. So, we actually, as you've seen in the earlier slides, we've piloted the project in Bidi Bidi refugee settlement. That is the largest refugee settlement on the African continent, and it's the second largest refugee settlement in the whole world, with over 200,000 refugees. And the terrain up in Bidi Bidi is quite different, I would say, to a lot of the other settlements, but particularly in the southwestern part of Uganda, and it's very close to South Sudan. So the refugees that are coming in are from the Republic of South Sudan, and other areas as well. So we decided to pilot the Shelter Depot in this particular location. If it would work there, it would work in our other settlements. And there's been a hell of a lot of learning, I would say, over the past year. You know, in line with our approach as Alight, and as well as with every shelter, we conducted a series of market assessments, really got down to the grassroots level and spoke to the displaced to really find out what were their issues, what were their challenges, what were their needs for shelter. And we learned a lot. We learned that, you know, some people were traveling over 40 kilometers to get 2-inch nails, for example. You know, that the certain materials were not available. People were not happy with their shelters. and they didn't have the materials, they didn't have the tools to actually live with dignity. And it was a real gap, and particularly in Bidi Bidi, you know, when you look at, when you're there and geographically how widespread out it is, and how it's very, you know, challenging to access vital items and services. You know, we, based on all the feedback we were receiving, we launched the project. So we actually opened the doors of the store that you saw in the photograph in February 2023. And throughout the whole period up until the end of last year, we've had so much demand for the project, a lot of support from the government, from the UN, from different agencies, and, you know, so much demand from the actual displaced, in, you know, being able to access these vital materials so they can live in dignity. And as Austin was explaining, again, through all the co-creation and all of the data that we're collecting directly from the people we're serving, all these ideas were cropping up. So one key area was the work for credit component, where it's very difficult when you are living in a very remote area, you are a displaced person, you know, where are you going to get your money from? How are you going to access that income to buy vital items? So we coined the work for credit component for the project, where the displaced are able to work and able then to get the voucher to redeem for items in the store to improve their homes. And we've got wonderful stories of really young people actually doing the work to actually help their elderly grandparents, you know, being able to get the tarpaulin, which is an every shelter project, to repair a hole in their leaky roof. You know, they're able to secure that hoe. So, you know, their elderly relatives or more vulnerable relatives are able to dig and grow crops so they've got enough food to eat. You know, the situation, I'd say, in Uganda is getting more dire. You know, Uganda has one of the largest refugee populations in the world. There's over 1.6 million here. Over 80% of them are women and children below the age of 18 years of age. And the money for the refugee response is dwindling. There's also the World Food Programme has had to come up with a prioritisation exercise to really categorise refugees in different categories to see which ones are actually able to get food assistance. So this is really, you know, leading to many challenges, and, you know, people are not able to live with dignity and have human worthy shelter or have access to livelihoods to improve their lives. So, so this project is really responding to that. And we've had so much learning from Bidi Bidi, ideas like the work for credit, also pop-up satellite stores in different locations, the community members coming up with ideas of community projects to actually, that they could work on to improve their community for the work for credit component. There's, you know, different innovative elements that are being added to the project in Bidi Bidi. So based on that, we also then had strategy internal discussions, and a decision was made to expand into Nachivali. So Nachivali Refugee Settlement is one of the oldest. It's 60 years. It's been operational. There's over 14 different nationalities. There's over 180 different, you know, people from different countries as living as displaced in Nachivali. And it's a very different setup and terrain to Bidi Bidi. So this, it just really made sense to set up the project there. We've had a massive influx from the DRC of influx of refugees coming into the country. They're coming in daily. There was thousands of thousands coming in last year, and a lot of them are actually coming into Nachivali. They're being transferred by the government and by the UN and by Alight to Nachivali Refugee Settlement, and they're being resettled in Rubondo Zone, which is where the shelter depot is being established. So at the end of September, we secured approval from the government at various levels, and actually we got offered several plots of land. That's how supportive the government are of this project, for us to expand the successful project in Nachivali Refugee Settlement. And then at the start of this year, we finalised a process of co-creation, a needs assessment with community members in Nacha Valley refugee settlement to help us design what will this shelter depot look like? What are the items that they need? You know, to really contextualise it to Nacha Valley refugee settlement. And then just this past month, and as Innocent, my colleague, said earlier, we've had a groundbreaking event today on ground with the government, with UNHCR, with other partners, and with customers, and we've actually started construction work on ground in Nacha Valley, which is really, really exciting. Next slide, Matt, please. So just to give you some quick highlights of key achievements from our pilot in Bidi Bidi settlement. So I would say the pilot was really successful. We weren't, obviously, we really embarked on a process of co-creation, the needs assessment, making sure it's really contextually viable, it's really in line with need, but still it was a pilot. And we were learning from it, and it's really been embraced, and it's really been successful. We proved the concept of the actual shelter depot, the store itself, and the infantry and all those processes, and making sure that we're in line with the need on ground, and the work for credit component as well was successfully prototyped, and there's quite a big customer demand for that. And I would say, as I was mentioning, there's been with Bidi Bidi, with the terrain, and for it being a pilot, we've been really innovating ideas directly coming from the displaced themselves. And there are some other innovations that are being prototyped there, such as Tickle 2.0, which is a new type of model of Tickle design, and also how the Bashabora, the tarpaulin, how that's being used in flooring in people's homes as well. And then we're taking all of that learning and utilising that for the expansion into Nacha Valley. And there's really strong customer demand. So as Austin said, so far the project has generated over 40 million Ugandan shillings, which is over $10,000, and that's huge. You know, when you're a displaced person and you've been moved from your home, your country, and you're in a settlement, and you don't have much access to money or to generate income. So right now, you know, people are receiving from the World Food Programme over 24,000 or 13,000 Ugandan shillings a month for food. So, you know, so that's very little money. That's about $5 a month for food. But yet the project and the demand for the items has been generating this revenue. And we've got a huge wait list for about 10 to 1 spots for the work for credit component as well. Next slide. So in Nacha Valley, I've mentioned some of this briefly, but it was a real big win to secure the government approval. We had to go through different levels. It was actually Innocent, who's on the call, that actually led on that process, which was quite a process because of, you know, of course, people are supportive, but you have to go through certain processes, and we secured that approval. It's been a really community needs driven, right from the grassroots for the design of this project. So Austin will show some slides shortly of what the model, what the project is going to look like in Nacha Valley, and you'll see it does look a bit different from the one Bidi Bidi, and it's based on all of the feedback and the co-creation that we've done directly with the customers, the displaced population in Nacha Valley. And as mentioned, we've kicked off the construction, and we're aiming for a launch in May, which is really exciting. And we're also working with local artists who are also from the displaced community, and are designing all the artwork that will also be displayed on the actual store as well. And we're really looking at ways of how the customers, the displaced, can really be embedded in part of this project in Nacha Valley. And some of the ideas that they've shared already is, you know, could there be space for vendors, for businesses to operate at the site? Can we be doing tools rental? Can we be having training and skilling workshops at the site as well. So I think I'll be handing over back to Austin at this point.
Great, yeah,
And we do have a time check. We have 10 minutes.
we'll be quick,
Yeah,
we'll
we
be really
really
quick.
actually need to, yeah.
We'll skip
invite
right through
it.
this. This is just a really quick picture of what the Naki Valley store will look like. It's gonna be very close to this. As Natalie was saying, it's obviously expanded. It's gonna be a flagship, so we can skip past that. We'll send these slides out. There's another picture of it, I think, next slide. Yep, and then this is the actual site. So, like she said, the government is so excited about this project. They're like, here, take your pick. You know, they're like, go see this one, go see that site. So we went out, we picked the site. It's gonna be next to these. You can't see on this page. It's gonna be right here now.
Okay.
Yeah, right there. So that's where the new site is. You can go to the next slide.
The Ribando zone is that, you know, and Nakavale knows about 7 miles by 7 miles, and is the Ribando zone inside the camp, or is that kind of outside the camp, or what do they mean by Ribando zone?
Natalie, did you catch that? That's probably a question for you. I believe this.
Yeah, so there are, so in the settlement itself, it's divided into 3 zones, the Juro, Rebondo, and base camp. So this
Okay.
is going to
That
be
answers
set up
my
in one of the
question.
zones
Okay,
This is the.
Yeah. within the settlement.
There's not much there, not
right,
much there at all. So
okay,
anyway,
Oh, great. So yeah, so just in summary for the next 6 months. So you know, as we've started the construction and of the actual site itself and the store, and we'll have the full staffing team in place, and we'll be trialing infantry. Again, this is all from the needs assessment directly from the community members of what the items they're asking for in the store, from agricultural tools to household items to construction items, materials. And then we'll have a launch of the actual depot. And then we will be also setting up and implementing the work for credit component, as that's come out as a really strong lead as well in Nacha Valley. We'll be strengthening all of our systems, particularly the financial systems. And then going forward for the rest of 2024, we'll be continuing, of course, the co-creation. We'll be collecting continual data to inform the project, the items that are required. We'll be working on innovation and prototyping key ideas directly from the community members. And as I've mentioned, we'll be setting up the training and skilling space, the satellite pop-up stores in the other zones within the settlement. So we can take the items, you know, to make them more accessible to different communities within the settlement. And then we'll be really focusing on pushing forward with
well, that happens when
yeah.
you're talking halfway around the world.
I'm going to jump in because we are getting close to time and I really do want others to weigh in with some reflection. Next slide, please. We are currently, this project was always, it started with a $270,000 goal to launch the initial build and expansion into Naka Valley. But this is also supporting the ongoing operations of BDBD at the same time. So we're really have 2 operations here that this money is supporting to build and continually improve upon the pilot, right? Because they're 2 very different locations who are teaching us 2 very different things of different insights. Okay, so it's really important that we this flagship is going to be you know, in a more diversified community. It's going to be it's a much more it's an older community, so it's much more established than Bitty Bitty. And so there's going to be a lot of new insights from how the community engages and also you know, works with some of these financial sustainability, work for credit, apprenticeship programs, training and skill building is going to be, you know, we believe a really successful insight track for us here. But all of this to say, 270 is the amount that's needed to really launch this flagship in Nacha Valley that is breaking ground today. And we are 100,000 in, so we still have, or sorry, we have 167,000 raised, and we need another $100,000 to close this gap, and we need it as soon as possible to keep this program building and to allow through the rest of 2024 to allow us that co-creative process to continue. So you can see here the breakdown of those funds, most of this being in the launch phase at the moment. This is the startup phase of infrastructure building and the building of the store. There is a dashboard, which is going to be tracking some of these data points and measurements, which we're really excited about, that can be shared with all of you who come in and invest. And we look forward to that opportunity as well with this being an innovative model. So I'm gonna take us to the next slide and open this up for your input, your reflection. Again, we hope you will most definitely consider ways to help us close this $100,000 gap today. And that, you know, if we can let Natalie and Innocent and Agnes and team know that that money is on its way, we know we will have a very successful launch and the opportunity to learn how to scale this going forward. We believe in this model, and innovation is needed in this space more than ever. So please do consider. Thank you for being here. I would love to hear your feedback. Anyone want to jump in with questions or feedback, ideas on how we might close this gap today?
All right. Did
Yeah.
you have 100? I think the last meeting it said we've raised 177K out of 270K. Is it
It's
167?
actually 167.
Okay, so we'll call 100,000.
Yeah,
All right, well, I'll do half of that at least.
amazing.
And
Wow.
what do you guys think you can do in this, you know, donation investment?
Yeah,
And I did 54 already. And so what do you think about the other half? Do you think you guys can?
50,000. We have 50,000 left to raise.
And I've been trying to think of people I might know of that are interested. I'm so busy donating, you know, I've got plenty of people I know. I don't have much, you know, it's not like I can go to friends of mine and say, okay, we're gonna round up,
Mhm.
you know, another, you know, such and such. It's more, I'm
Mhm.
focused on what I'm
Yeah,
able to do myself.
absolutely.
And
Thank you.
but
for
what do you guys think? I
Amazing.
mean, and I
Yeah.
know John and Martha, I think, put in 54,000.
Well, we have a great donor
Did the
community
Devics
joining
put
in, and we'd love to expand that circle. Yep, we have.
Right, so I
great
know it was
support.
John and Martha, myself, and RJ and Teresa, I think were
Yes,
um,
primary
the
donors.
54s and
Mhm.
um,
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of
it's,
new people also that we could hear from, maybe some ideas. I don't know if anyone on the screen wants to jump in with some thoughts in the last 4 minutes. But just want to allow some other perspective to support Frank in your
Right.
in your idea of how do we connect others to
Right.
the story of Shelter Depot, to this innovative, really industry breaking concept that we want to scale, and we believe we will. And so we really, this $100,000, now $50,000 gap is going to allow us to achieve this. So
just to everybody out there, I'll put in at least 50. Think about how we get the last 50 rounded up, and let's talk about it online. Yeah, and I've got 50 I can do immediately, you know, to this, so.
thank you so much,
Mhm.
Frank. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Innocent of the team's, yeah, thankful. I don't know if
Yeah,
the
'cause I know
internet
they
is working for
would like to
everyone.
see a firm
Yeah,
commitment. We're starting construction and, you know, the pilot's been successful and things like that. And
mhm, yeah. And Frank's been to Nacho Valley, so I know
Right.
that there's that, and also.
right,
Cal-
it is, you know, an
Yep.
amazing thing to see. Very few Americans, when you get right down to, have seen a UN refugee camp, particularly
Yeah.
one that diverse.
Yeah,
And I know BD is huge, and
yeah, and we'll talk about
Yes.
Rotary potentially as, you know.
Yeah,
how this helps.
I afterwards, I wanna learn a little bit more just to figure out.
Mhm.
The biggest things there, obviously from the Rotary perspective, are grant guidelines
Yeah.
and the timeline.
Mhm.
Just because most districts and their grant funding isn't going to be until July 1.
Right,
right,
And so that's, but and also what's eligible and what's not, as you and I talked
Yeah.
about on the phone a little bit, so I wanna.
yeah,
I wanna learn a little bit more,
Yeah.
I don't wanna
More
steal.
technical layers.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
Yeah, totally understood. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's
But,
exciting opportunity. And there's year over year, there will be another budget at the end of this year that's operations. This is our
Right.
build year. So this
Right.
is our startup phase.
Right.
This investment is really allowing us that
Mhm.
infrastructure build to be completed. But next year we'll have a new budget, which is an operational budget. So this will be our next kind of opportunity to work together in a maybe grants that might support that.
Yeah,
differently,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
and, yeah, just need to be, figure out how to be creative on that part, on that
Yeah.
part of things, right?
Yeah, so as we know, as Rotarians, Rotary projects are extensive and take time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're very exacting as to
And
you know,
maybe,
what they are willing to approve and, which is good. They insist on a lot of oversight and
yeah.
things like
Which
that.
means they take good care of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's-
That's right, yeah.
And another thing that, we like to, that, we could do is, anyone who is considering or would like to support with, along with Frank, we could say, you don't want to say out loud, or you don't want to come in on the call, we could do
Mhm.
a follow-up, just in the
Absolutely,
next 30 minutes and 30 days.
Yeah.
Because I know we are running short on time.
Yeah,
I don't
we're
want to.
Yeah, we're at time, actually. So I want to just say thank you all for being here. Thank you for hearing this concept, listening in. We're welcoming of any ideas from here. Please do stay in touch with us. We'd love to hear any feedback. Thoughts and
Any
ideas.
questions?
Yeah,
Yeah,
any
yeah.
questions? We shared a lot, so
Yeah.
thank you for the space. And again, your being here means a lot to us. So thank you again, and we wish you a really beautiful day and week. So we look forward to working with you.